Even the spirit of their great country cannot endure the evil that has infected this earth. It is a simple fact.
And we could have saved them! We should have, right?
He may still... How can you believe that? Their three greatest hopes cannot work together.
But we can, right? We can do this!
Yes, we can save everyone if we wish to. We can even save her. I'm certain of it. Yes, you're right. We've given them a gift they've thrown away. We sacrificed everything for them. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Last year, we brought you Event Comics Month, a celebration and critique of 4 big company-wide crossover event comics for DC and Marvel. And we're proud to do it again this year. Welcome to Event Comics Month 2, Crisis of the Wars. As with last year's Event Comics Month, the selections were voted on by patrons, picking 2 DC and 2 Marvel. And you'll be happy to know that in the full wisdom of the big 2, they added a crap ton more events just in a single year that I could cover. Hell, there were more that I could have added, but for various reasons I cut them out. Some for being too recent, and others because I planned on covering them in a different way. There were originally 5 new potential events from Marvel. But you know, event fatigue couldn't possibly be a real thing that affects comic book sales. But in any case, here we are with the first selection, Infinite Crisis, the direct sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths, released 20 years after it. By the way, in the voting for Event Comics Month 2, this wasn't even close. Infinite Crisis won the most votes by a huge margin among both companies, even against Infinity War, which has the name value for the friggin' movie coming soon. Like, holy crap, you guys really wanted to see me cover this one! I should note that there is an event comic that's a bit of a pseudo-sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths, 0 Hour, but it's only that they really mention the original Crisis, and there's a big wall of white. Otherwise, its story is completely unrelated. For Infinite Crisis, there was a huge amount of build-up for it and several storylines that converged on it, in particular 4 miniseries. I've talked a little bit about this before, both in my 15 Things Wrong with Identity Crisis video, but also the Blue Beetle retrospective. As such, before we get to the event itself, we need to talk about all the things that led into it. Let's start with the OMAC project. In Identity Crisis, it was revealed that in the past, the Justice League had altered the mind of the villain Dr. Light to make him less of a threat. Batman had come in unexpectedly and tried to stop them, so they erased his memory of it happening. When Batman eventually found out what they did, he created a massive satellite network called Brother Eye to monitor all of Earth's superpowered population because he felt he couldn't trust other heroes anymore. Unfortunately, Maxwell Lord had his switch flipped to evil and took control of the satellites, using the artificial intelligence of Brother Eye to help implant nanites in over 1 million people. The nanites take control of the host body and transform them into a super powerful drone called an OMAC. When Wonder Woman is forced to murder Maxwell Lord, Brother Eye gains complete sapience and activates all the OMACs to try to take over the world. Fortunately, Batman utilizes one of Ted Kord's devices, a massive EMP generator, to disable all but 200,000 of them, freeing the people trapped inside, of course. With that loss, Brother Eye transmits the image, without context, of Wonder Woman murdering Maxwell Lord to the entire world. Oh, snap! At the same time, things were afoot in the magic world in the miniseries Day of Vengeance. The Spectre, lacking a host after Hal Jordan had been resurrected, had kinda just been wandering aimlessly, directionless. However, direction soon came from an unlikely source. Jean Loring, you'll recall, was in Arkham Asylum after the events of Identity Crisis. Somehow she came in contact with the Black Diamond of Eclipso, the spirit of divine vengeance who got fired and the Spectre took over. Eclipso convinced the Spectre that the true source of evil in the world was magic, and as such the Spectre went on a quest to murder every magic user in the DCU. A team of magic-based heroes joined together to counter the two, able to send Eclipso into orbit around the sun, since Eclipso's power is weakened by daylight, but were unable to stop the Spectre. The Spectre murdered the wizard Shazam, but when it then tried to kill Naboo, the powerful Lord of Order who is basically also Dr. Fate, it's complicated, God finally takes notice of what's going on and sent the Spectre into a new host as punishment. It was less a day of vengeance and more a day of literal Deus Ex Machina. The miniseries with the least bit of connection to what's going on is Rann-Thanagar War. Long story short,
Too late!
Hawkman's original homeworld of Thanagar is destroyed, and its population is transported to the alien world Rann, home of superhero Adam Strange, as refugees. Various forces bring the two populations to war, but in the conclusion, a massive tear in the space-time continuum opens up in their star system, with dozens of alien factions still engaged in fighting. And finally, that brings us to Villains United. Once it got out among the supervillain population what happened to Dr. Light, which makes me think of supervillains having their own kind of news show they watch, like having evil anchormen and everything. Lex Luthor organized all the supervillains into a massive secret society to combat the heroes out of fear that they'd do this again. Of course, being villains, they had to be dicks about it. If you refused to join up, you were killed. However, a group of 6 second-string villains, called the Secret Six, banded together under a mysterious figure called Mockingbird to resist the society. Surprisingly, this is the miniseries that had the most connections to what was going on. First of all, Lady Quark, that character created in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and one of the only survivors of the multiverse, was kidnapped by Sinestro. That was then followed up by Luthor kidnapping, of all people, Pariah, also from Crisis on Infinite Earths. He tortures Pariah to try to find Mockingbird, but Pariah just warns him, there's another Lex Luthor out there he needs to be concerned about. And Lex reveals that he is that alternate Luthor. Indeed, Mockingbird is the real Lex, and the Society's Luthor murders Pariah to prevent him from warning the other Society members about his own plans. We also learn of a plot to release hundreds of criminals from prison, but that's just a bit of a minor plot point for later in the event. And only in a massive event like this would the plan to release hundreds of psychotic murderers from prison be a minor plot point. While not a miniseries, there's one last thing to discuss before going in. In the wake of events like the murder of Maxwell Lord and the revelations about what the League did to Dr. Light, most of the members of the Justice League disband. The Martian Manhunter, lamenting that he didn't take Ted Kord's warning seriously about a conspiracy in the works, begins wondering what could be powerful enough to have orchestrated everything that had happened. At that moment, Superman seems to arrive at the tower, at least according to the security system, but Jean reacts with confusion at this intruder, and the JLA watchtower on the moon explodes. And that's where we pick up in the story. So let's dig into the event proper with Infinite Crisis.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
This is a 7-issue series, and I'm reading from a trade, and this is how late we're starting, so yeah, no looking at the covers. We open in space. Why are we here? They've forgotten, haven't they? Oh, be quiet! I totally remember where we parked. We close in on the moon and the still flaming ruins of the JLA watchtower, where Superman is flying in. Despite the damage, the atmospheric force field around the tower is just barely operating, and he meets up with Batman, who's recovering the watchtower's black box. Supes can't find the Martian Manhunter anywhere. Based on the fact that the teleporter was used just before the tower exploded, they know it wasn't some accident. Batman gets the black box. More spying? That satellite wasn't enough? Don't be naive, Clark. This is simple security. Gotta go with Batman here. It's your own damn security system he's checking. What the hell? However, Wonder Woman arrives and proclaims that nothing's simple. You don't belong here, Diana. None of us do, Bruce. Why not? While a figure watches from the shadows, the three argue about the fact that people are now getting scared of superheroes because of the contextless images of Wonder Woman killing a man constantly being broadcast across the world. I wasn't reading Wonder Woman at the time, but I have to wonder if, like, being a public figure, she never held a press conference and, explained that context? Because this isn't the first time Wendy murdered something on live TV. Killed a Medusa once, a perfectly intelligent one, and it's not like some obscure Silver Age story where it happened. It was a year before this miniseries. The difference is there was at least a little bit of context to what was happening so people could understand, oh hey, she's decapitating someone evil. But speaking of that image, we cut to Smallville, where Superboy, aka Connor Kent, is watching TV and sees that particular image.
Time for backstory! Even more of it!
Yeah, if that long introduction wasn't enough, there's more stuff going on here. A double-edged sword to this whole thing is that this has been building up for quite a while now in individual books, with storylines that end up having conclusions right here. For Power Girl in the pages of JSA and her own miniseries, the individual miniseries and their various effects on characters, and most especially here with Connor Kent. And to be fair, you shouldn't always write with the expectation that some newcomer is gonna pick up your book. Sure, every comic is someone's first, but not every comic is the first story either. So in this case, the reason why Connor is hanging out with Ma and Pa Kent is because of a crossover between Teen Titans and Outsiders. A storyline in that was the revelation that Connor was not just a clone of Superman, but of Lex Luthor as well.
Of course! Don't you know anything about science?
Lex apparently also put a sleeper program inside of Connor's mind to activate upon his command that turned him evil and hijinks ensued. Since his mind got returned to normal, he's been in a self-imposed exile out of fear of hurting anybody else. Ma Kent is here to encourage him to go help the Teen Titans, who are currently on TV fighting both demons and Omax. Also, turns out a Titans communicator is just a drink coaster with a T on it. Like, are there dials and buttons on the other side? Because if there aren't, then my cell phone is more advanced than superhero gear. Anyway, Ma Kent almost gets Connor to do the heroic thing, but then the news mentions Lex Luthor being a murder suspect of a pilot. Minor bit of backstory there is that Luthor was actually president for a few years, until he put on a big green power suit and tried to fight Superman over Metropolis. Which, in my humble opinion, is something we should see more of in political discourse. So yeah, while Connor buttons up his shirt, a group of figures in silhouette watch not just him, but various other things happening in the DCU in their rather inconveniently shaped wall of TVs here, as various heroes and villains battle it out across the planet. One of the four thinks Connor will eventually step up, but another thinks that if they don't get involved soon, Earth is doomed. We cut over to Bloodhaven, where the then recently resurrected Donna Troy is meeting with Nightwing, Starfire, and Supergirl. Yes, even Donna Troy's death and resurrection was part of the build-up to Infinite Crisis. And by the way, we're only 7 pages into the first issue, and so far I've spent more time in this episode talking about all the backstory for it. Episodes like this are why I don't have the continuity alarm anymore. I repurposed it. During her Resurrection miniseries, the Titans of Greek myth were trying to flee the universe because they knew something was up. Donna is assembling a team to go and try to figure that out. Nightwing and Starfire have a moment.
A man from Earth and a princess from an alien world. I've watched their relationship with a vested interest over the years. A lot of interest. And a lot of tissues.
The two depart, and the artwork is kind of ambiguous whether or not the two kiss, but Dick seems to push Corey away and swing off.
But maybe love is powerless here. Maybe love is too weak.
Nightwing leaping at the reader crotch first, however, will always be powerful. An Omac emerges from a homeless guy and vaporizes a minor supervillain called the Ratcatcher before Nightwing can intercede. The Omac spots him, but a new command arrives, summoning all the Omacs in Bloodhaven to head elsewhere. And of course, in a deliberate callback to Crisis on Infinite Earths, the sky has turned red, and the Omacs filling the sky are very similar looking to the Anti-Monitor's shadow demons. Also, the moon is huge! I have less of a problem with that here than in Badrock because, well, let's face it, during this crisis, everything is going nuts. I can believe the moon crashing into the Earth is just on a checklist of everything going wrong. We cut to the Polaris Galaxy and that massive battle between Ran and Thanagar's forces that I mentioned earlier. But that's not what's important here. What is that massive tear in the space-time continuum. Over on Oa, homeworld of the Green Lanterns, the Guardians of the Universe discuss the fact that a bunch of other weird stuff has happened. Planets have changed their locations, others destroyed, but most bizarre of all, Oa used to be the exact center of the universe, but now this anomaly is. On the plus side, rental prices will go down. Over to Gotham City, the events of Day of Vengeance finish up as the Rock of Eternity explodes, sending debris everywhere and unleashing the 7 deadly enemies of man. And then over to 20 miles south of Metropolis, where we see Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters. I talked about them a bit back in the Battle for Bloodhaven reviews, Battle for Bloodhaven itself being a mini-series in the aftermath of Infinite Crisis, so basically time is an infinite loop, I guess. More or less, they were a group of characters from Quality Comics that got bought out by DC and, up until Crisis on Infinite Earths, fought in a world where World War II was still going on to the present day. Post-Crisis, they became a super team that fought in World War II alongside the Justice Society, and then regrouped later here and there in modern times. The group has been investigating the Secret Society. They know they held a meeting here recently and think they might be able to pick up a trail on them, but then discover a false door and go inside. They enter into a high-tech base, but are quickly attacked by members of the Society, specifically Dr. Polaris, Dr. Light, Deathstroke, Black Adam, the Psycho Pirate, Sinestro, Bizarro, the Reverse Flash, and Cheetah. Yeah, bear in mind that these are all heavy hitters. Any one of them would give the Justice League a run for their money, even Cheetah, frankly. So it shouldn't surprise anyone that the Freedom Fighters are screwed. Back to the moon, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are attacked by the despot Mongol, who had heard about what happened to the League and wanted to see it for himself. Mongol is also a heavy hitter, able to go toe-to-toe with Superman. From a meta perspective, it's a deliberate callback to a famous Alan Moore story, For the Man Who Has Everything, where the three took on Mongol. The idea is to parallel them being the best of friends there, and being bitter at each other here, just to show how far the Trinity has fallen. Or maybe it's just a sign that they need Robin with them, since he was in the original story too. The Freedom Fighters are basically slaughtered, which sadly includes former Titans member Damage. He does survive this, but is scarred and very, very bitter afterwards and goes all grimdark and stuff. And then there's poor Phantom Lady, who is already stuck with the very revealing outfit, and then Deathstroke shoves a phallic symbol through her chest and bleeding cleavage. Classy. It's a point I'll get back to later. The fight with Mongol continues. This is one of those occasions where I have to remind people of why I say I'm reading from a trade at the beginning. Not just because the cover of a trade has a different purpose and effect than an individual issue, but because the scans I have are from the individual issues released. And the trade has several differences. Mongol is down for the count, and 1D swings her sword down at him, yelling that she's gonna keep him down. Superman blocks the sword, and Batman asks what she's doing. In the original issue, she says, "What did you think I was going to do?" implying very clearly that she was gonna kill him. Wisely, the trade alters that to, "What did you think I was going to do? Kill him? I was gonna pin him to the floor." Through his skull, obviously! I mean, why else would I be swinging at his head like that? Artistic errors aside, that is a better change. While Wonder Woman is the member of the Trinity willing to kill, it's not like she's bloodthirsty and always willing to slaughter her enemies. Supes declares that he doesn't know who she is anymore. Neither did this book's writer Jeff Johns, but we'll get into that later. Mongol tosses them all aside and makes a run for it, somehow managing to reach a teleporter and escape. And it's really a bad sign when we see Superman just floating there while he's running, and he couldn't just knock him on the back of the head or anything. But yeah, the three argue. They're indignant about 1D murdering Maxwell Lord. They're indignant about Batman's satellite network. They're indignant about Superman. What was their hang-up with Superman?
You're Superman. I know that. Then start acting like it. All hell is broken loose, and you're on the moon with me? The world needs you, and for you, it's about setting an example. Everyone looks up to you. They listen to you. If you tell them to fight, they'll fight.
Fighting what? Yeah, Superman should be going around helping people, but he's technically doing that right now, trying to find out who blew up the Watchtower and looking for the Martian Manhunter. What is the problem here? Yeah, Superman's baggage of not inspiring people is the weakest of the three, because it's not like he's doing anything different. It'd be one thing if he had committed some great sin, something that would actually divide him from the others, but He's Superman. He hasn't done anything wrong here. It's just,
You've got to inspire people, Clark, by doing things. I don't know what things, just do them.
still, Batman does get the final line.
But they need to be inspired. And let's face it, Superman, the last time you really inspired anyone was when you were dead.
And the Bat-Dick proceeds to walk away, dropping a mic and playing Turn Down for What on the MP3 player in his utility belt. The three separate. So, just to recap so far, the Freedom Fighters are dead or dying, the Rock of Eternity has exploded over Gotham, raining debris and hellish evils upon the world, half the universe is at war with the other half as the space-time continuum decides to play Rearrange the Furniture, the skies have turned red, OMACs are gathering for some nefarious purpose, and the three greatest superheroes in the DC universe can't get along with each other.
This must be Thursday. I never could get the hang of Thursdays.
And so the four in silhouette finish their debate, with the one still thinking that the heroes will overcome all this, but the rest deciding, no, they have to take action. One of them starts punching at the crystalline walls that have been showing them these events.
We've given them a gift they've thrown away. We sacrificed everything for them. Could have at least gotten a thank you card, damn it!
And so the figure finally shatters the wall, and they stand revealed at the end of issue 1. Alexander Luthor, Superboy Prime, Lois Lane of Earth 2, and of course, the Superman of Earth 2, the four survivors of the original Crisis on Infinite Earths, last seen entering some kind of beautiful realm at the end of that story, which it looks like they just broke. I don't think they're gonna get the deposit back.
Now this looks like a job for Superman.
All this glass I just shattered, now this looks like a job for Lois Lane. For me personally, reading this back when it first came out, I was ecstatic. Aside from the fact that this really did confirm that it was a sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths, I kind of saw where they were coming from. Dark storytelling, grim and gritty heroics, retcons that revealed our heroes weren't really heroes, killing off characters left and right, seeing the original Superman coming forth and promising, we're gonna save the day and fix all this. Yeah. It was inspiring, and it felt like a promise of a return to something better. But of course, it's a very deceptive sentiment. More on that later.